All right, so in this video, I'm gonna quickly pull back the curtain towards the way corporate life works, right? I've been in management, and unfortunately there's some things that they don't teach the employee class. And these are the realities that you have to understand, especially if you are in the workforce. I recently got a question from a follower about certain things of a situation at work, but I thought this would be very valuable just because I have so much, I've seen so much of the things that go behind the scenes, the decision making, how things happen with budget, where company loyalties actually lie. So we're pulling back the curtain a little bit today. So if you are an employee, you have to really look towards where your mindset is around employment, because a lot of times people who are very well meaning, like your parents, they may have taught you to get a stable job, work really hard, get a stable job, and stay somewhere as long as possible. That advice may have worked in the 70s and the 80s. That does not work in the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s. I can tell you that point blank, right? Long gone are the days where companies would give you a pension. Long gone are those days where when you retire, you would get a Rolex watch. Those days are long gone. So companies do not have loyalty. So if companies do not have loyalty, how do they incentivize people to work, right? So the 401k, do your research on this one. It's only been around since the 80s. We actually do not know if people can sustainably live on their retirement 401ks. We don't know that. It's all an experiment over this next 50 to 100 years. And it was basically to save companies money to get away from pensions, because pensions you have to keep paying out for the lifetime, right? So understand that your company that you work for does not have loyalty towards you. That is, and you may think that HR is there to have your back. That is simply not the case. HR is there to protect corporate, right? And one of the greatest satirical kind of ways of seeing this was through the show The Office with Michael Scott, and you see Toby Flenderson. You watch that show, Michael was a boss who wanted to be one of the family, one of the employee class. He wanted to be accepted as the employee class, but he's the boss. Now, the reality of the situation is anytime you work with someone and you have a boss and then you have the employees, the boss will subconsciously want to be accepted, socially accepted by the employees. And the reality is there is a hierarchy. So you as an employee, it's probably not in your best interest to share certain things with your boss. Withhold some information that could be used against you. Like if you're applying to other jobs, don't tell your boss. If you have other career ambitions outside of your day job, use your discernment whether you share that with your boss, right? Certain things can be used against you, right? So be very careful. Similarly, the boss will have a subconscious desire to be accepted by the rest. They may try to eat with you. They may try to, grab lunch with you guys, get coffee with you guys. They want to be accepted because it is lonely at the top. That is a truth, right? Other times, companies hire managers, not telling the person that they're stepping into a role where they just have to fire people. That happens way more than you would think, right? So when you're an employee, you have to remember your loyalty is to yourself, which means you have to start thinking of yourself as an asset. You have to start thinking of yourself as a business. You have to start thinking of yourself as as a brand. So if you were to look at your resume as your past performance, that's what we called it when we were doing government consulting. When you would pitch to a government agency about why your company is the best fit for this contract, they would look at past performance. Who are the other agencies that you worked with? Who are the other vendors that you worked with? What results did you get? What did you say you were gonna do? What did you actually get done, right? So think of your resume as past performance, right? This is how you market yourself. You are constantly in a sales cycle, selling yourself to others. You are constantly in that state. So if you know that your company has no loyalty towards you, what is your motivation to actually being there, right? So one of my mentors taught me this, and it always stuck with me. Your day job is paid training towards your future business or goal. Your job is paid training for your future business or goal. So when you work at Wendy's, when you work at Burger King, when you work at McDonald's, when you work at a hotel, when you work at a grocery store, when you work somewhere that you don't see as befitting of you, don't see it as you're working that job. See it as you are building your brand. Learn all the mechanics that go beyond your job, right? So if you're working at a hotel, understand the systems that make that hotel work. If you're working at a grocery store, understand the people, the contacts, build up all the things that would help you, that would be transferable skills to the next role, right? Now that you understand a little bit of the psychology of why you should not be attached to the loyalty of the company, you have to understand that they can fire you on a moment's notice. Most states, they are at will, they have at will firing, which means that they do not need to really give you notice. They can fire you right then and there, and you're out of there. You're canned. When I was working in Virginia, that was exactly what it is. I'm not sure in certain states, but Maryland was a little bit different. Virginia is very much, they can fire you same day termination. DC, same thing. So be very mindful that it is not in your best interest to be loyal in that certain way. Obviously, be a professional, put your best foot forward, always do your job to your fullest abilities, have integrity when you work, right? Always try to go a little bit above and beyond, but always understand that you could be replaced in a moment's notice. Now, once you're in these roles, how do you excel? How do you get to that next level, right? So the question that I got yesterday was about specifically performance reviews. And, we've all been there where sometimes you get a good performance review and sometimes you get a terrible performance review. Sometimes they lie on the performance review because and I'll go into the why of why they do that, but you have to understand your performance review is what your manager is capable of in that moment. It is not a reflection of your brand. And you have to separate the two, because your brand identity, you as a person who has worked very diligently, who has worked these jobs, you have to separate yourself from how your company is currently viewing you. Why do I say that? Well, the reality of this situation, if you do watch The Office, there's one episode where Michael Scott has a surplus. It's a really good episode to watch because it's satire. It is total satire of what actually does go on with the decision making. So in the show, they're working at a paper company. Michael is the boss. Toby Flenderson is the HR, and they have a whole bunch of paper salespeople, as well as customer service people, as well as accountants. Now, Michael has to make a quick decision of what to do. Does everyone equally get paid a minimal bonus for the surplus of revenue that was generated that year? Or do they give it to select people like the salespeople? Or does nobody get it and then the boss gets it? Does nobody get a surplus and then the boss takes a certain percentage of what was saved? So budgets, very, very, very important. So in the government sector, historically, it has been a use it or lose it budget system. It is the total opposite of the private sector. It is completely in the direction of waste and mismanagement. The private sector, on the other hand, it is totally on operational efficiency. If you save the company money, you should be rewarded, right? So organizations, when new leaders step in, the psychology that they usually have is they want to fire people right across the board. Why? Because one, it looks like on paper, you can put in your resume that leader who just stepped in. Maybe he's a CTO, maybe he's a COO. He can step in and on his brand, he is thinking from his brand's perspective. He does not care about the company. He's thinking from his brand's perspective. I saved the company 10% across the board. Now, the reality is he just fired a bunch of people. He fired a bunch of people. He came in, he's the new guy. Nobody's going to blame him because he's new, and he just fired people. With the wave of a magic pen, he just fired some people. Now, is that fair? No, it's not. That's why you have to be loyal to your brand. Don't be attached to the company, the benefits, the package, the healthcare. Don't be attached to that stuff. Always be applying. Always be on the lookout for what other opportunities are out there. Now remember, I said in the last video, there were people that I knew in the corporate space who knew a ton of valuable information, yet they never got promoted. Then there was people who knew the right people, didn't know a lot, but they got promoted. Now, what's the difference between these two? See, when I first started my career, I was on this side where I thought it's a knowledge gap. If I just increase my knowledge gap, if I decrease that knowledge gap and I increase my skills, my proficiency, I will get promoted. That's what logically makes sense. But the reality is, it's a combination of the two. There are people who will get promoted purely on a who you know basis. They just have enough face time and rapport with their managers, their directors, their VPs, and they will get promoted. And some of them, they don't ever really increase that skills gap. They're just very good at schmoozing people. Now, that can lead to technical laziness, but from a social perspective, it's far from lazy. It's extremely disciplined. That's customer relationship management. You get to know the names of people. You greet everyone with a smile. You give everyone a firm handshake. You dress to impress. You go to those happy hours and you network with the bosses. You know, for a while, I knew a lot of people who would turn down happy hours purely on the basis of, you know, on ethics or values, or they don't like to drink or whatever, but they were the ones that were not getting promoted. So you don't have to drink, but you do have a responsibility to your brand. If you are the lid on your brand, you have to look at where is your social game. Are you networking with the people in your company? Are you getting to know people outside of your organization and people in the other side of the organization, right? So from a strategic standpoint, it's very important to know the people in HR. It's very, very important to get to know them on a personal basis. Most people treat them the way Michael treated Toby in the show The Office. But if you get to know them on a human basis, they can be your best advocate and they can tell you things off the record that most people would never know. Now, on the other side, get to know your boss, get to know your boss's boss, get to share with them your goals, your dreams, where you're trying to go within the company. Don't share your business ideas with them, right? Share with them your business ideas. Your ideas within the company. Now, with the people that you work with, network with them. You never know if you're going to start a business with these people later down the line. You know, if you look at the PayPal mafia, most of those folks, they did work together at PayPal, but then now they're starting other businesses, right? You want to be a social networking expert, right? I use this very strategically, and I call up people on a regular basis. This is something you have to get into the habit of. You have to designate time to following up on conversations with people in the past. See how you can help them. See if they need any support. See what they're up to. See what their vision is, and help them. And you want to build up social equity, right? This is like that reciprocity thing that I was talking about, right? When we talk about reciprocity, you want to have a reciprocal relationship where you are helping people and you can call in favors at a later date, right? It's not like you're a mafia kingpin or something, but you want them to remember, hey, I do owe this person a favor, right? So help them as many times as you can, support as many people as you can, do as much as you can, right? But also be mindful of the takers, right? That was That book, if you read Give and Take by Adam Grant, this goes into that whole idea, breaks it down with all sorts of historical examples. But from the perspective of business, just remember, one, your loyalty is to your brand. You have to see yourself as a brand. Number two, build your brand. Start to make a master resume of all the people that you've worked with, all the industries that you've worked with, all the skills that you learned, right? This is not just for applying for a job. If you want to start your business later on, you have to be able to pitch past performance. Number three, when it comes to reviews, performance reviews, this is where we're really going to dive in a little bit more. So just remember that sometimes it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the money. The money is what they're trying to save, right? So they could give you a bonus for your performance, or they could save the money and then the boss gets a cut of that. Now, you have to be very discerning of which type of boss you work for. Is your boss the type that will advocate for you, will try to get you a promotion, will try to get you a salary bump? Or is your boss there selfishly trying to collect a paycheck? And it's selfish. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that like they're in it for their own interest. Because if they are, then you should be in it for your own interest as well, which means you have to advocate for yourself. You have to advocate to your boss. You have to advocate to your boss's boss. You have to network everything into oblivion at these social events, right? Refine what you know and what you don't know, but also refine who you know. Build your network. Get on a regular number basis with them. Be able to text people comfortably. Be able to call people comfortably. Let them know, right? Learn to withhold certain information from your bosses. Learn to share and network with the people that you work with. And also understand, when you go through college, you'll remember that one of the most unfair things about college is the whole idea of a bell curve. So if you've ever been in a class, you remember that it's not about, let's say that there was an exam and there was 110 points to this exam, right? That means that for every 11 points you missed, you would go down a letter grade, theoretically. But in a bell curve system, that's not how it works. And it is very unfair. There is the bottom performers, the middle performers on the low end, and then the middle performers on the top end, and then there is the peak performers. And it forms a bell curve. And the thing is, sometimes if the exam was really, really hard and nobody did well, that bell curve would get adjusted towards the median of the performers, right? The average, the mean of the performance, right? Now, if you had a exam where people really, really perform really well, it would get ultra competitive. And so it wouldn't be enough to get 100 out of 110. You'd probably need to get 106 out of 110, 107 to 1 out of 10 in order to get that A. 108 out of 110 just to get that A. Just because you're working in a class of high performers. Now on the other side of things, let's say everybody was averaging a 30 or a 40. If you got a 60 out of 110, you might be in the top part of that bell curve. So the reason I say that the reason I bring up that bell curve example is because there are a lot of bosses, they will not tell you this, but the way that they do evaluations is they try to keep these certain people as the peak performers, and then everybody else has to fit in the bell curve, and then everybody else has to be the poor performers. So if you are one of the unfavored ones who are in the bottom percentage, you're stuck. And the only real opportunity you have is to either switch teams or you have to outperform the people in front of you. Now your boss, they will use 4 tactics to try to motivate you. This comes straight from the PMBOK Book of Knowledge. It's called SWAT, that's the acronym. Strengths, which is the S, W, which is the weakness, O, which is the opportunity, and then T, which is the threat. They'll start off with saying, these are the things we like about you. These are your strengths. You're very personable. You show up on time. You leave on time, right? Then they'll talk about your weaknesses. When it comes to solving problems. You're not quite there yet. And this is what we're expecting out of you, right? Opportunities. Here's the thing that we want to see in Q2 to Q3. We want to see you excel in these areas. Then they'll give you a threat. And if you can't perform, then maybe we have to demote you back to another level, right? So just remember, this is a standard textbook way of trying to motivate people. You may remember this motivation tactic from, they talk about that when they use this analogy of a rabbit. How do you motivate a rabbit? Either with a carrot on the end of a stick so that they move forward, or they use the stick as a punishment. So just remember the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. This is not personal. This is just something that bosses and managers do. The bell curve is something that bosses and managers do. The trying to save the money so that they get a bigger bonus. The bosses get a bigger bonus. That's something that bosses do. This is just boss psychology. If you watch The Office, you watch that one episode, you will see it in satirical form, how the decision-making actually goes down. So I just wanted to encourage you all to be true and loyal to yourselves, right? Build your brand. Your company is an empire unto itself. It has no loyalty to you. Your brand is the only thing that you get to go to home and sleep at bed with at night, because your brand is either making you money or it's not. Now, that's the ultimate truth. These decisions that I just shared with you when I pulled back the curtains, this is how the decision-making works with bosses. I have many friends who were managers. I myself was a manager. I had to make decisions with budgets. Sometimes it sucked because there's not as much empathy that goes into it. Sometimes you realize there are people's lives on the line, right? People have a family they have to go to. They have a family they have to provide for. And you providing them with nothing and giving them a layoff is not going to help. But meanwhile, you also trying to motivate them by using SWOT analysis may actually demotivate them. So if you're a boss and you want me to make a video on how to motivate your employees, just like, comment, subscribe, send me a DM or something, and I will try to make that video for you. But if you're an employee, you have to really be thinking with an entrepreneurial mindset. Go read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Don't allow yourself to be stuck in the limiting mindset that I am going to work for this company and that they're going to save the day. There is no one coming. Stop looking for a savior within the company. Stop. This is like escapism mentality. An escapist mentality is a weak mindset that is just prone, riddled with holes when it comes to accountability, when it comes to success, when it comes to being disciplined about your goals and values. So I hope this video helps. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.